Yep. So, as y'all know, I love music. I love everything about music. The chord progression, the synthesizers, the drums, everything. I love every genre of music. And we have here a a 30-minute video of the art of album series. The art of album fucking series. See, a thing about me is I love album series like Kanye's, Tyler's, Jay-Z's, The Blueprint, let me think, Eminem's, shit like that, bro. I love it. Cause it continues on with the story. I love it. It's like a small story, and I love it, bro.
Album series are one of
Nightmare.
the more underrated things in music, I feel.
Sean Tyler.
People talk a lot about albums by themselves, but a series of albums that are all connected, I think people tend to look over. Even looking it up for this video, nobody talks about them. I kept seeing the term get confused for album runs, which are different. Allow me to explain just in case. An album run is a line of albums that were all good, one after another. Pretty simple. The albums aren't related, they're just a good run from the artist. An album series is a planned set of connected albums, or an album that just gets sequels, which is what we're going to talk about here.
Kanye, the GOAT! Yay!
Who else better to start off with than Kanye?
The GOAT, the college dropout, late registration, graduation, bangers after fucking bangers, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
And one of the best known trilogies in rap, the College Trilogy. Consisting of the College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation. This was originally planned to be a full saga with a fourth album, Good Ass Job. Due to real life events, this didn't happen, instead giving us 808s and Heartbreak, 808s. And never going back to finish the series. College Dropout, as the title suggests, is about Kanye choosing to leave college and pursue his dreams of being a rapper, mirroring what he did in real life. Late Registration is pretty straightforward. As the title suggests, this album is about Kanye's character going back to school. There's not really a storyline with these albums, so there isn't much to unpack. But in Late Registration, Kanye continues down the conscious rap kinda road he was on in Dropout. In the story of the album, he joins a fraternity, the notorious Broke Five Broke. Broke, Five Broke. We ain't got it.
Bro.
Classic. And his second stint at school evidently went well, as next we get Graduation, the album where Kanye finishes school, climbs the ladder of fame, and comes back to reminisce in his home city of Chicago. Great albums, great trilogy all around. It is a bit sad though that Good Ass Job didn't happen. He actually was working on it after 808s. But then more real life events happened, and we got Dark Twisted Fantasy instead. At the same time though, I think Graduation as the conclusion to this series is better than that album would have been. Also, while we're here, you could also technically say albums like Dark Fantasy, Watch the Throne, and Cruel Summer are a series. Once again, I would deem that as a run, since like they are explicitly tied or in a unique universe, but they are pretty well related, and you can claim the same for Ye, Kids See Ghosts, Jesus is King, and the 2020 version of Donda. And then the sequel albums, most of them didn't come out, but about half of Kanye's discography was at one point a sequel album, like Yeezus 2 or Jesus is King 2, the notorious Donda 2, and everyone's favorite, the Vulture series. One so forgettable, I almost didn't write anything about it. All in all, I quite like this series. It may be a bit light on real lore and depth, but it's also the College Trilogy. Like, do I really want 3 albums of Kanye rapping about classes? Not really, no. So it straying and focusing more on Kanye the rapper and his rise to the top is for the best. And it also gives these albums a lot more power to listen back to, as at that point, Kanye had still not even scraped the peaks of his career. So to hear him at the point of where he was still an underdog, it's super motivating.
The GOAT! My GOAT! T Dollars!
So with an example of a pretty standard album series, let's check out Tyler the Creator.
Bastard,
most people probably know this, but I feel like since Tyler's image has strayed so far away from it, some might not know that his first 3 projects, Bastard, Goblin, and Wolf, are a trilogy. referred to as the Wolf Trilogy. Tyler's trilogy is one of the more fleshed out ones I've ever seen, as it's not just a string of connected albums, no, it's a full-blown story being told through the albums with characters and real plot points you can follow. Starting with Bastard in 2009, Tyler built this world where he is this murderous, broken, but also sort of fascinating person. The album takes place through the lens of a therapy session, and the songs, for the most part, are stories from Tyler or his alter ego Ace ranting about his father, about people, about life in general, and it progressively getting darker. After covering a ton of ground, the therapy session ends in the death of the Ace character, and breaking from the order of release, the story jumps to Wolf. First off, why is Wolf the next in the story, but the last to release? Well, that is kinda up in the air. Whether it was always planned to be like this or not, Wolf is the prequel to Goblin, with the events and stories lining up the best when you put Wolf before it. It's not 100% with any combination of albums.
It don't make zero sense at all for him to say, for Tyler at the end of Wolf to say, oh, he want to kill Salem, and then that's it. That's the end of Wolf. Like, it had to continue. So that's why I believe that Goblin started the way it did. Because if you listen to the end of Wolf and the start of Goblin, it just connects. It just connects. Hold on. But, because, like, I think the first word is, no, you won't, Tyler. I think it is. So, imagine if you listening, right? And Tyler says, if I see that nigga, I would have killed him. And then Dr. TC on the Star Goblin and be like, no, you won't, Tyler. Like, god damn, that shit's hard. Like, I love that trilogy. I love
even here, Tyler flat out mentions Goblin many times, but for the most major details, Wolf fits behind it. Even though it works, there's an increase in production, story, quality, everything, so that switch is very jarring. Tyler was working on an alternate version of Wolf in 2010, but it doesn't look like that album had any story connections to the one we got, so the prequel decision had to be intentional. That being said too, the setting of the album kinda does mask the mismatch a bit. Instead of a therapy session, it's an entire camp that the events of this album take place in, so that allows for more characters and overall things going on.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's best to go song by song, in one case visiting another album to build up the story properly.
Damn.
Wolf really is like a movie. Even now, I'd still say it's his most visual album. I really wish someone made a movie of it, and the effect that has on the plot is perfect. Re-listening to it was awesome, and I don't think it gets enough love for being so polished and only being Tyler's third project. Anyways, after the death of Ace and Bastard, Wolf follows Tyler's other persona, Wolf Haley. On his first day of camp, he's introduced to a musician at the camp named Sam. Sam instantly dislikes Wolf and tells him to stay away from him and is very hostile. After settling into the album with Jamba, the story starts back up on Cowboy, a song about Wolf just minding his business at Flognaw and introducing the character of Salem, Sam's girlfriend. After Sam tells Wolf to stay away from her, we go into Awkward, a song about Sam and Salem's relationship. Then we skip to 48, a song about Sam selling drugs and how that starts to weigh on him as a person. Then on Beamer, Wolf and Salem start hanging out, which Sam finds out about at the end, leading us into I Fucking Hate You. A song about how Sam felt after finding out what happened and how he might kill Wolf if he sees him. At the end of it, we get another dialogue moment where Wolf asks Salem why Sam is so mean. We find out it's because of something that happened with Sam at home, and then the album goes into Pigs, another Sam song about his problems back home, giving you more information about who he is as a character. Next is Parking Lot, where Wolf is chilling with Loiter Squad. It's at the end of this song where Wolf gets told Sam is looking for him and wants to kill him. On Rusty, Sam follows through on looking for Wolf and kills Earl Sweatshirt in the middle of his verse, an insane step and one that explodes the course of the album. The next track is Trash Wing, where all the Odd Future members ride out with Wolf and fight Sam and his friends. Gotta pause here. The events of these two tracks are big reasons why Goblin is placed after this album. Earl dying in Rusty explains away the real reason why Earl wasn't on Goblin, and half of Odd Future dying in Trashwing explains why they aren't on Goblin. Yeah. Pretty convenient plotline. Also, Frank Ocean seemed to be the only one to get the hell out of Camp Flog Gnaw, because he skirts way past the drama and shows back up on Goblin. At the very end of Trashwing, when the gunshots stop, you can hear Salem ask what was that, and she finds Wolf and plays him their new song, Tree Home 95. This is where the plot thickens even more, because at the same time as Tree Home 95 is going on, Tyler himself on the Odd Future tape Volume 2 kills Sam on Sam is Dead. After Tree Home 95, Wolf goes back to camp on Tamale and gets sent to the office after being caught by Clancy. With the final track Lone, we return to the therapy session format, and Wolf explains how he's feeling in the fallout of what happened and the death of his grandmother. At the end, he's asked about Samuel looking for him and tells the therapist that if he sees Sam, he'll kill him, a line that leads us directly into Goblin, which starts on this same therapy session. Now with the persona switching to Tyler himself and his feelings on Fame. That's another little plot hole. The fact that the three albums are different alter egos of Tyler's, but the transition to one of them is switching characters mid-conversation. That's a bit silly, but it is what it is. None of this is confirmed, so it all could be theorized.
The thing about it, because I know most people don't like Goblin because of the gore and shit, but like, bro, you have to realize art, for real, to be honest. Like, Goblin is really good art, to be honest. Like, it's dark art, really good dark art. My favorite song is Fish, for sure. Boom 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 boom. Like, bro, Tyler production
nothingness. But Goblin follows Tyler and his struggles once again, committing several crimes and now bringing in another character, Tron Cat, who's a voice in his head. On Analog, he's reminiscing about someone who can definitely be Salem. Tyler's condition worsens after that though, and he kills Jasper and Taco on BSD, which cuts into a final therapy session in Window, where the therapist has brought in all of Tyler's friends to rap with him, but after Tyler finishes his verse, he kills everyone featured on it and breaks down. The session ends with Golden, with Tyler ranting again about his status and anger, and the therapist breaks through and reveals that all these alter egos, including himself, have been Tyler's imagination. Ace, Dr. TC, Wolf Haley, Sam, and Troncat were all Tyler, and that ends the trilogy. What a roller coaster. Being able to dig back through these really gave me a new respect for these albums, and further proves that Tyler's early career wasn't just edgy crap, he always had an insane amount of talent. Yeah. Intentional or not, this is one of, if not the deepest ones we'll be looking at, and I think it's great that these albums can be listened to both with and without that additional context. It's very well put together, especially considering how long it took to build. These projects came out over the course of 4 years, and so much happened in that time, so him still being able to tie them together shows a lot.
A$AP Rocky! Pretty Boy Flacco!
Another good trilogy, that would be the A$AP Rocky trilogy. I'm sure there's some name for it, but here I'm just going to be calling it the A$AP series. No storylines or anything, just good ass music. We start out with Live Love A$AP in 2011, goated mixtape. If you never got into cloud rap or missed it or something like that, this is probably the best project to experience it through. To borrow a term from the pop community, Live Love A$AP is like the cloud rap Bible. I felt old saying that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this tape was what got Rocky into the mainstream. Peso was a really big song from it. And 2 years later, we get the debut album, Long Live A$AP, which is also very good. Unfortunately though, ranking wise, it is the least good in my eyes. That might be controversial, but this is, for understandable reasons, Rocky's most basic sounding album. We keep a lot of the sound from Live Love, but there isn't like a super distinct sound from this album. It's kind of just like a 2013 rap album with songs that would have been popular in 2013. Not that anything's wrong with that, it just aged kinda poorly. But still, a lot of my favorite songs from Rocky are on here. And then the final album in the lineup, At Long Last A$AP. Still to this day, his most experimental and unique sounding album. By this point in 2015, cloud rap for the most part was over, sadly, so none of that really carries over here, but that's alright because Rocky gave the entire album this psychedelic vibe which both sounds really cool and trippy, but also ages very well. It's his best album.
Yeah.
I could really talk about the production of this all day, but not only does it have that psychedelicness to it, but it also has an old-timey, nostalgic vibe to it as well. There's a lot of like soul samples and stuff in there that are used to further boost the already spooky kind of atmosphere on this. A great conclusion to the trilogy.
Kid Cudi. To the moon.
Next up we got Kid Cudi, one of the most appreciated trilogies in rap. Of course, the Man on the Moon series.
Yep.
It gets started in 2009 with Man on the Moon, The End of Day, one of the best albums of the late 2000s. I really wish I could have properly lived through this album and its impact, because there really was nothing like it then, and even now, kinda. Like, the message of Man on the Moon and its legacy have lived on, but nobody has really made anything that sounds like it since. It's a really vibrant album, if that makes any sense. If you haven't listened to it, I of course highly suggest it and every album in this video, all bangers, and Man on the Moon is one where no matter how you as a person are feeling, whether you're happy or sad, you'll come out of that album feeling motivated and hungry. It's another great underdog story, and it continues in Man on the Moon 2 in 2010. This album is great. I feel like not enough people talk about what a good follow-up this is. I know I say that about every album, but I think I liked this one more than the first one. It's way more cohesive, I feel. Man on the Moon 2 is the legend of Mr. Rager, and like the first one, we get to see life through his perspective, but now a bit darker, where Man on the Moon 1 was bright and kind of poppy while having dark lyrics. The sequel is more rock-like, with those lyrics getting even darker. I feel like the tone this album carries is a lot more fitting of its subject. It is kind of sour, but because of that, you can immerse yourself in it a lot more. Mr. Rager's story can be likened to a redemption. Things aren't 100% by the end of the album, but nothing ever really is 100%. And you can see that just like the first album, this one is a story of personal growth. But from here, we kind of lost the hell out of the plot. Kid Cudi's next solo album would not be Man on the Moon 3, but instead Indie Cud. While very underrated, it would kind of set Cudi into a sharp decline, as by 2015, it looked like Kid Cudi was thrashed. But just as these albums go, Cudi pulled himself back together, got back on track in 2016, and by 2020, he was ready to give us Man on the Moon 3. This was my first Cudi album, so I hold a lot of nostalgia for it, and I gotta say, this is a really good kind of comeback album. It fits right in, and even though you know back to back listening to them that skipping 10 years later from the second album is very obvious, it's not like bad or anything, it doesn't ruin it. Coming from the rock sound on Man on the Moon 2, 3 goes in a way softer direction. You can still hear the influence, but now it's more of a blend of that, the first album, and modern rap production. If I had to rate them, I would go 2, 1, and 3, but they're all very close.
The Weeknd, Abo! Woo!
Switching gears, let's talk about The Weeknd and his trilogies. Yes, trilogies plural. These are very, very well known, but a great topic nonetheless. Let's start in 2012 with House of Balloons, an at the time very dark mixtape about topics that hadn't really been seen in R&B or not shown in such a way. Like, toxicity in music has always been a thing, but here The Weeknd was playing someone who was somehow the most toxic man alive and also the victim. That was such an interesting element to add, and it makes the story of The Weeknd, the in-album character, one with a lot of turns. The story of the first trilogy is kinda long, but unlike the Tyler trilogy, it's easier to sum up, so I'll do that. House of Balloons is about The Weeknd's struggles with drugs, women, and the party lifestyle. Thursday is about the lives of the women in that lifestyle, and Echoes of Silence is about The Weeknd going through it after losing one of those women. Super, super good. I'm one of those people that think The Weeknd's early music was the best he ever made, so I can go on all day about each thing I like from these tapes, but the atmosphere and mood of it in particular are to die for. Pretty solid to look at it as a sort of time capsule of its era, and this era of the early 2010s, for me at least, always looked very stylish and glitzy. It's really nostalgic as I was a wee lad in the early 2010s. The new trilogy is where a lot of the meat is, however. We could be here all day talking about it, but once again, I'll do the best I can with the cliff notes of it. The After Hours, Dawn FM, and Hurry Up Tomorrow trilogy was told through music videos, tours, and social media posts, all in addition to the music itself, but it's still the core of the story, so we'll be getting most of the context. In 2020, The Weeknd dropped After Hours, an album that isn't just one of his best, but also one of the biggest ever, which is so insane. The Weeknd was already huge beforehand, but you gotta remember, the gap between his last full-length album, Starboy, and this one was damn near 4 years. And for a little bit after My Dear Melancholy came out, it seemed like he just disappeared. But he came back stronger than ever with this album, and introduced a narrative that would be built on for the next 5 years. In After Hours, The Weeknd is at his lowest, alone, rich, but broken. Over the course of the album, we see him revert to his old ways, except where that version of The Weeknd made it out, this one overdoses, taking us to a limbo stage in Dawn FM. In Purgatory, Abel essentially relives his life and past relationships. From what you can glean through the videos and lyrics, there are 2 versions of The Weeknd in this Purgatory. And I say glean because Dawn FM's storyline is kinda shaky. By summer 2022, any attention that would have went to building its lore was going to the full rebirth of Starboy for some reason. So it's kind of a dip in clarity, and all that we know is just fan interpretations of it anyway, so we'll never know what the correct timeline for any of these albums really are. But yeah, the older Weeknd tells his younger self to stop chasing women and get out of purgatory, but he doesn't listen and tries instead to fix his past relationships, and the events of that unfold throughout the album. By the end, he's right back where he started, heartbroken and lost. In Less Than Zero, we can see him find acceptance in what has happened, and the album closes with Phantom Regret, a song that leaves the state of Abel's character mostly up in the air. He doesn't reach heaven, but he's also not alive, so how he eventually got out of purgatory, we don't know. But fast forward to 2025 and Hurry Up Tomorrow. The album opens with Wake Me Up, where we can assume he makes his way out of purgatory, and as the title suggests, wakes up from the events of After Hours. In Cry For Me, he's back on stage, but near the end, his voice distorts to signify he's starting to lose it, which is the main conflict in the album, as well as something that happened to Abel in real life, as you may know. And in the story, he relapses again because of it, going back down this dark road, now dependent on them to get through shows. About halfway through, he decides to help himself, and to help himself, he has to get rid of the Weeknd in order to get to heaven, or tomorrow, as the album is named after. The fans end up accepting him for him, and the album finishes with the title track, where Abel reflects on his life after the course of the album, and most importantly after the lyrics finish. The song closes out with the intro of High For This playing very faintly, but 2 seconds before the song fully ends, that stops, which again we can infer is the cycle being broken. This is coming from a big Reddit post, so I skipped a lot of things in order to keep it brief, but if you want to know more, you can definitely find it. It's from a Reddit post? All this information, despite me knowing these albums are always connected, still put them in a way different light. Dawn FM especially, I gained a lot more appreciation for that album. Listening to it side by side with the lore makes it even more special. And the trilogy as a whole, like I said, we don't know what's true and what's a stretch, but no matter what, it is mostly free of plot holes, which I give it a lot of credit for. Like, yeah, Dawn FM's to Hurry Up Tomorrow is a weird gap, and that part kinda doesn't seamlessly go together, but the first track of Hurry Up Tomorrow is literally all you need. I would have liked more explanation, but he did wake up through that song, and what else could you really ask for there? It's not necessary.
Yep, the blueprint.
Alright, let's get into Jay-Z. Technically he has 2 series of albums. First one was the Volume series. I don't know if you should count this as a series per se. It's really more of just a naming scheme, I guess. But his 2nd through 4th albums are volumes 1 through 3. But the main series here we're going to be talking about is the Blueprint, a trilogy of albums that time after time set Hov's legacy and status as the biggest rapper of his era. Starting off with Blueprint 1 in 2001, this album really set the bar, I feel, for a lot of what rap ended up being in the 2000s. Like, not to be overly lazy or anything, but the best thing I can say to describe it is that it is the blueprint. This inspired so many people, but it also launched a lot of people. This little known producer, Kanye West, Just Blaze, Timbaland, All these guys blew up from producing on this album, and the drama surrounding all of it. Jay lost his beefs ultimately, but this is a hell of a record to drop in response to it. And after the dust settled, he came back in 2002 with the sequel. Blueprint 2 is very weird. I don't know how to feel about it. For one, it's a double album, which, not to be negative, but that rarely works. Most double albums are bloated to death, and this is one of the best examples you can have, because Blueprint 2 is damn near 2 hours long for no good reason.
Damn.
I look at that and think it's ridiculous, but also at the same time, there was never really a point in the album where I was begging for it to end. It stays fairly consistent. There's just so much there that's the problem. Like, did we really need all 3 of these Pharrell features? Did we really need the Frank Sinatra sample? Are we serious here? But at the very least, I can say Blueprint 2 is not bad to good.
Yeah.
Blueprint 3 is genuinely bad. I think this may be one of the most deceiving albums someone has ever put out, because Blueprint 3 was and is huge. It's one of Jay's biggest albums. I guarantee there's people that know very little about Jay or his career, but know about Blueprint 3. Just that name and cover are bigger than pretty much every album he made before it. And he had an incredible amount of motion for this whole little era. 2009 to 2013 were some of Jay's biggest years and releases. He was huge back then. And if you listen to some of the biggest songs on this album, you would understand why it's so popular. Here's the bad part though. Those 4 or 5 big songs really are the only good ones on the album. I shit you not, everything else is shockingly bad. It's also very poppy, which was a trend back then with that generation of rappers. It's part of why the album was so successful, but because of that, it has also aged like a late 2000s pop album, which is the last thing I want my Jay-Z album to feel like.
Yeah.
So the Blueprint series as a whole, basically a complete downward slope from the first to the third. Sad, but he made money, so it's whatever, I guess.
Lil Wayne, the Carter series.
Lastly, we have Lil Wayne, a man of several series. If I talked about his mixtapes, this video would be an hour long. Man was deranged in the 2000s. The Dedication series alone is 6 tapes, and there's like 4 more series on top of that. This discography could kill a Victorian child. So here, we're just gonna focus on the Carter series, as it was the most prolific and the easiest to go over. First up, the Carter 1 in 2004. This album, for a lot of reasons, is very impressive. Not only was it a smash hit and another kind of bar-setting project that inspired a lot of other 2000s rappers, but it was also Wayne's 4th album, which just shows how fast he was growing back then. He was also only 22, on a level that a lot of people spend half their career trying to get to. There's a lot of people that even now still think this is his best album. So with a reputation like that, he had to come back a year later with, predictably, the Carter 2. This album was such a giant shift in everything. One so large, I'm shocked he only needed a year to make it. Like, he was moving different on the Carter 2. And for me personally, I think this is my second favorite. The production has aged so well, and rapping wise, there's so many songs where Wayne somehow, someway just controls the beat and does it effortlessly. I love it, but we all know what's coming next. In 2008, Lil Wayne made history with the Carter 3. Generational album. The amount of hits on here could be an album itself. He was moving different. And to emphasize that, we're going to talk about sales. I love sales, by the way. I feel like they can tell a story sometimes. So let's look at Carter 1. First week, it did 116,000 copies. Carter 2, 240,000. Carter 3 sold 1 million in its first week.
Damn.
This is in the span of 4 years, by the way. In 4 years, Lil Wayne was selling 10 times as many albums as he did when this series began. I don't think we'll ever see that again. I don't think we can see that again. It was mental. A lot of good songs on here. Some of it has aged a little poorly, but as a whole, I'd say this is a perfect follow-up, and I feel here was a good place to take a break. Not that it was needed, but Carter 3 had did everything it needed to do, so making the 4th album right after that would have been milking it. And Wayne probably felt the same way, because afterward he would explore some different avenues, not coming back to the series until 2011. But when the series came back, it was better than ever.
Yeah.
The Carter 4, while not being able to fully eclipse 3 legacy-wise, to me is a way better album and may just be his best. I feel that way because sound-wise and kind of career-wise, the Carter 4 is almost perfectly in the middle of Wayne's discography. And for when it came out, I think it's a good mix of classic Lil Wayne and more modern characteristics in rap. There were so many good songs on this one, but unfortunately, it was the end of an era. Of course, the Carter didn't end here, but it kinda did.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that went down in the years after this album between Lil Wayne and Birdman, who had basically been his mentor up until this point, but to sum it up, we wouldn't see the Carter 5 until 2018 when all of these issues were resolved. That basically made this album a comeback for him, as for the most part, Lil Wayne had not made very much music for half that decade, so making this as good as possible was pretty important, and he delivered on it. My only criticism of it is that it's just a bit too long of an album. By 2018, any artist that was still dropping 90-minute albums needed to be exiled, because that is just way too much, but it is really good. Some of the songs are carried over from previous versions of the album, while some are made for 2018, and that is something kind of strange, but I don't know, I didn't hate it. The variety made for a good blend of different sounds, which you'll see a bad example of very shortly. This was originally supposed to end the series and Wayne's career, but he changed his mind as we ended up getting more projects and the announcement of the Carter 6.
Yeah.
After being teased in 2020, formally announced in 2023, and dropping in 2025, I honestly have no idea what happened here.
Yeah,
it's not the worst album of the year, but it is the most confusing. And I honestly wouldn't say Lil Wayne is even bad on this album. He's okay, but it's everything around him that's breaking the album down. The production choices, the features on here, it's like a joke album at times. Because why would we be doing these things in 2025? Yeah. Like, there's songs on here, one in particular, that I cannot comprehend being made in this decade. Probably because it wasn't. But if so, why was it released then? And it's just kind of sad, because even though at the end of the day, this is just another rap series, the Carter was special, man. A 20-year legacy, and we get this. You hate to see it, but who knows? Lil Wayne is a very perplexing character. He may be washed, but we honestly won't be able to know for sure. This is the same guy who dropped Rebirth after all, so I don't know. I have a tiny bit of faith in him. Maybe the Carter 7 will be the best one in the series if I'm not dead by the time it comes out. Alright guys, that wraps it up. I'm going to make this outro quick since this is already such a long video. First things first. W video. Okay, so what I wanted to say is, I have a favorite trilogy, right? And I'm so pissed he didn't mention Eminem, by the way, but I have a favorite trilogy. So it goes Tyler first, right? Because Tyler's trilogy fucks up your brain already, right? He missed Pharrell's trilogy. I think Pusha T had a trilogy too, if I'm not mistaken. But it was Tyler's. I love the Slim Shady tapes. I love Kanye's college trilogy, and then the Carters. I love those, bro. I love those. W video, bro. W fucking video. And my favorite Carter of all time will be the fourth one. I love the fourth one, bro. The fourth one.